and welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and this week we have the Lazy Gaming Guys' very own Scott in the co-host chair. Thanks for helping out this week, Scott.
No problem. Always fun to be here.
If this is your very first episode of the show, the way we format it is most of the episode is a block of news which Nintendo saw that you and I were recording this week, so they made sure to get the Nintendo Direct out today. That way it was in the news. I mean, that's the only explanation I can think of.
Well, yeah, because they announced it yesterday. So, I mean, we didn't even have prior knowledge. They had the prior knowledge.
Right, so there's a mole in our host Discord.
My money is on Bobby.
Yeah, he's very connected to Pokemon, so I would say it is Bobby too. But as I was saying, most of the show is news, and then we head into the Brocat block. That's how we cap it off. That's the more personal side of the podcast. That's where you get to know Scott and I a little bit better, what we've been doing, playing, watching, how work's been since the last time you heard us right here on the show. So let's jump right in and explore sector number 495. This is a new story that you put on Discord, Scott. You saw it before I did. Jurassic League. It's an upcoming comic miniseries. It just got announced by DC Comics last week. It is a 6-issue series. Comes from writer Daniel Warren Johnson, who previously did Wonder Woman Dead Earth. Beautiful book. And artist Juan Gideon from Venom. So basically, it reimagines the DC universe in which the heroes and villains are anthropomorphic dinosaurs. Artists quickly took to Twitter to make fan art of the announced Dino DC characters. You seemed pretty excited for this one.
Yeah, to me, it just screams 90s. Like, it screams things like Street Sharks and all of that, where it's just like, here's Justice League. What, they're anthropomorphic dinosaurs. Why? I don't know. It's just cool. Like, are you going to be upset at, Velociraptor Joker or, Triceratops Superman? No. You're going to be like, this is freaking cool.
What an idea. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't do this sooner. In a way, it seems like an obvious thing. Maybe 290s where it just flew under the radar. But Daniel Warren Johnson, who does amazing artwork, I wish he were doing all the interiors. He did that cover that you put up, and I wish he would do all the interiors for the book. But from the previews that I saw on Newsarama, even the insides look pretty much like the cover. They've got really cool designs. You mentioned the Joker already. Constantine, it'd be neat to see him as a dinosaur. Is there a DC?
That's gonna be great.
Is there a DC villain or hero that they haven't shown yet that you're kind of excited to see what its dinosaur form would be?
I'm kind of curious how some of especially the Batman Rogues Gallery would be. Like a Two-Face as a dinosaur.
Oh yeah.
Or Scarecrow. Or a Riddler dinosaur. Just going around. I hope he has a little suit on. And a little cane. That would just crack me up so hard.
Like the Riddler, I'm trying to think of a dinosaur that has a dome, and I'm thinking of that one that butts heads with the other. That'd be the only one I can think of that maybe they can make it it's got a big brain, or I don't know, something weird like that.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe that would be like Brainiac or something.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I want the Robins to be like the little feathered dinosaurs. You know which ones I'm talking about? Yeah. Those would be cool. Just a bunch of them running around. I forgot what was Batman? That's T-Rex?
Following Batman. I can't remember if Batman was T-Rex or not.
But either way, just following him around, riding him. That'd be kind of neat. There's
going to be a Brachiosaurus, though. That'll be entertaining.
Holy shit, Brachiosaurus. Man. And they would have to also be anthropomorphic, so that's even harder to do. Trying to get them running around, they would...
It's long head or long neck.
Maybe Martian Manhunter because it's a shapeshifter. You can kind of get away with that.
Could be, yeah. It's that's just his true form, not what he looks like normally. Martian Manhunter would just be a person still because he's a shapeshifter.
It's not exactly what I expected. All right. Yeah. He's just like Justice League. He's operating as normal.
Yeah. Just questions nothing as to why everyone else is a dinosaur.
Issue number 1 debuts on May 11th. It will be in the upcoming previews catalog. So if you use that at your local comic shop, you'll be able to add it to your subscription at that point. Variety is reporting that Disney Plus is going to be bringing a 10-episode Goosebumps series to the service. It'll follow a group of 5 high schoolers who unleash supernatural forces on their town. They all must work together in order to save it, but they also end up learning a lot about their parents' teenage secrets in the process, probably stuff that ends up leading into them discovering the Goosebumps book that unleashes these monsters into the world, kind of like the movie did, or whatever type of magic they end up tapping into to get these creatures and monsters out into the real world. Again, like the movie or even the more recent Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah, it seems like they're taking some of those old series and kind of not quite rebooting, but telling new stories with them. Because I mean, there's not really much of a reboot for Goosebumps, considering they were all self-contained stories. So it is really cool to see that they're doing something with Goosebumps. You know, they tried it with those movies. I think the first one did well enough since they did get a sequel, but I don't think the sequel did all that well.
I remember wanting to watch the sequel because the first one was great. The only thing I'm kind of tired of, and the other movie did it too, the recent Guillermo movie, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. It's another one of those where they open this diary and the monsters from the book come to life and they come to the town. And it's like, why is that always the same plot for all of these?
Yeah, I don't get why they go with that much of a cliche. I mean, to the point where it's literally the same setup every time. And it's always got to be connected to like a parent or, you know, like the parents group also did the same stuff before and things of that nature. And it's just kind of like, oh, okay. Or like, you know, the old person that's telling them and warning them about the book was the person that also had done this before. And that's why they were warning them.
I'm guessing that they want to keep like an ongoing cast of characters and cast of actors that they can sign on long term, because I don't know if you watched Goosebumps growing up, but every episode is just like the books, like you were saying, were self-contained stories, and they would have self-contained actors for just that episode. Sometimes shitty fucking actors. They're all kids, so what can you do? And I don't think they could quite get away with that in the modern world where it's like, all right, that means a contract for that child and this child and that one for every single episode. For some reason, I feel like it's harder to do these days than it was in the 90s. I don't know why. It just seems that way.
I think it's just because, like, back then, everyone was just wanting to be on TV. So you could just sign these kids up with, you know, what would be considered a very cheap, you know, contract where it's like, yeah, you're getting 10 grand.
Mm-hmm.
And to a kid, holy crap, I just got 10 grand and
I'm
I'm on
millionaire.
TV. Like, you know, whereas nowadays, I mean, some of these kids have YouTube channels and stuff like that that are making them tons of money. The appeal of being on TV isn't what it was, because they can be on YouTube is a lot of people's new TV and stuff like that. So they're just already on there. So you end up having to pay them more money, I think. Or the parents also realize, like, holy crap, we can make a lot of money off of our kids.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas back then, again, the parents were just happy to see their kids on TV and get a little bit of a payday.
Right.
Like,
is there any Goosebumps story that you want to see represented in this 10 episode series? Was it even something that you read or watched?
so Goosebumps for me was one of those weird things because I never read any of them, but I would watch the show occasionally. Like, it was just one of those, I'd catch it on and enjoy watching it. Same with Are You Afraid of the Dark? I was never religiously watching it, but it's like, oh crap, like, new episode's on. Yeah, let me sit down and watch it. So I don't know a ton of the stories from it, but I enjoyed watching those little self-contained, almost horror-like stories.
Yeah, the couple that I want to see return or get remade or whatever you want to call it, but just make an appearance in this. Obviously, the Night of the Living Dummy would be awesome, getting a modern Slappy, just like in the movies. But in this case, also the mask that you can't take off. I forgot what that one was
That's
called.
one of the few I actually remember.
Yeah,
Like, I
it was
remember that
excellent.
one, and then there was like some sleepaway camp thing that I remember, where there was like a monster in the woods.
Yeah, that was getting all the campers. It was kind of like a Boy Scouts thing, right?
Yes.
Minus the
Like, those
pedos.
are like the only two that really. Oh man, that's a crossover.
Yeah.
Little did you know it was just Peacemaker.
Yeah, that's the crossover right there. That's when they announced that Disney bought out Warner Media and David Zaslav made that deal. It's like, what a weird way to announce it. Peacemaker showed up in this Goosebumps episode. Well, I'm kind of looking forward to it. I don't have access. I guess I could get access to Disney Plus. My parents have it. They have an account somewhere. I don't know if my brother has it, but they have access to it and I could get it. But maybe I'll check it out at that point. But I don't know if Disney Plus does Blu-rays. Have you seen anything for like the Marvel shows on the shelves?
So it's weird because the originals stuff seems to be have a lot of the Netflix type issues where it just doesn't get put out on Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of the stuff has been put out on Blu-ray, but it was stuff that wasn't original to Disney Plus. It just was put on Disney Plus. Kind of like I watched Star Wars Rebels, and it's like, well, yeah, I bought all the Blu-rays of all the seasons of that, but that wasn't exclusive. Or it's exclusive to Disney Plus, but it wasn't an original. A lot of the original stuff, from what I've seen, is still trapped on the site. The only benefit over Netflix that I can see is that they don't rotate out anything since it's all their own stuff.
Sure,
so it doesn't leave.
They did rotate out some of the MCU movies, which people were kind of surprised about, but it's not a Disney Plus original. All the originals seem to stay on each thing's service, like HBO Max, Netflix, anything that's original. I haven't seen it leave. But yeah, people were kind of surprised. They're like, these MCU movies are leaving Disney Plus. Why? And it's like, because they're making money off of some other person streaming service that wants to carry them now. Yeah. Every fucking publisher or
wanting you to go buy the Blu-rays.
That too. Right. So it's like, this isn't new. This happens with every streaming service.
But yeah, unfortunately, it does seem like they don't release on Blu-ray either. It's just a common issue with streaming services from what I can tell.
If I hear that it is a really good series, I'll probably end up asking for my parents' login and checking out Goosebumps. It sounds like more from the MCU. They're going to make their debut in the Spider-Verse film from Sony. The producers tease that there's going to be cameos in the upcoming sequel. On the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, Chris Miller said, quote, "The multiverse is big and wide, and all things grow. Why would you think a multiverse in which many things are possible that those things are not related?" End quote. Phil Lord then added, quote, "Everything's possible except for this one thing that everyone wants," end quote. So they basically confirmed that Iron Man Jr. is going to be in the Spider-Verse sequel, or at least some characters in the MCU are for sure going to show up here.
Which, I mean, I guess I was kind of hoping that, and I guess technically it will still be its own thing outside of it. Kind of like how Venom had a cameo in Spider-Man, but not really. They quickly were like, nope, he's not actually in that universe.
Gotcha.
He just did a cameo. So I'm hoping it stays more like that, where it's like, yeah, okay, these characters are in here. I don't know why, but they are. Great. Hopefully that's it. We can still keep these universes separate.
Kind of like maybe they're multiverse jumping, and then they're like, oh shit, we're in the MCU.
Yeah,
and they multiverse jump again.
Yeah. Like, oh, look, they're suddenly like in the middle of Civil War and then just keep going or something like that.
Yeah, kind of like Monsters Inc.
Yeah. A bit. Like, I'm hoping that it sticks to something along those lines where it's just a quick cameo.
Agreed. Anyone hoping that Tom Holland is going to run around with Miles and older Peter, I don't think they're not going to get that. And that's a much more expensive get, I feel like, to get someone like that as opposed to some of these voice actors. And some of them did show up in TV, but to get someone from Disney's MCU universe, it's going to cost Sony quite a bit. And Tom Holland has since said that they're just waiting for a phone call from Sony to show up to voice characters in Spider-Verse. So it sounds like they're not an integral part of the plot, because by now they would have been called. They would have had that. But yes, we're going to get something MCU related. I have said in the past that Spider-Verse is my favorite of the Marvel films. If you count it in the non-live action too, yeah, it's a theatrical release. I count it. So I am very much looking forward to the next two sequels. I will be bringing Leo to the theaters to see those. Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 is going to be in theaters exclusively on October 7th. And we have some more trouble for Warner Brothers. David Zaslav is going to really have his hands full, as this is yet another thing he has to deal with when the deal goes through next month/April. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Village Roadshow has sued Warner Brothers for breach of contract concerning the HBO Max hybrid release of Matrix Resurrections. And the complaint filed in the LA Superior Court, it read, quote, WB's sole purpose in moving the release date of The Matrix Resurrections forward was to create a desperately needed wave of year-end HBO Max premium subscriptions from what it knew would be a blockbuster film, despite knowing full well that it would decimate the film's box office revenue and deprive Village Roadshow of any economic upside that WB and its affiliates would enjoy, especially as compared to a 2022 exclusive theatrical release, end quote. So I've got a couple of different thoughts on this one. They're making a lot of assumptions, in my opinion, and I'm not defending Warner Brothers. I don't like Warner Brothers, but I'm also slow your roll here. People weren't exactly hyped for The Matrix Resurrections.
No, I'm kind of on the same boat as you with that, where it's like they assumed like, oh yeah, this was going to be a blockbuster. And it's like, I don't think so. Like everyone we've talked to in kind of our group very much was just like, oh, I'll see it because it's on HBO Max for the most part, or like, I mean, I guess I might go to the theater for it. No one was, oh my God, I have to go see this movie. It looks amazing. Most people's thought on Matrix in general was, yeah, it's over. It ended with the trilogy. Like, do I need a fourth movie? Not really.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to see what kind of numbers they even got as subscription numbers to justify that it would have been a blockbuster.
Right.
Because if it didn't even give a huge boost to their subscription numbers, then it sure as hell wouldn't have given them a huge box office.
I agree. And I do think that's sure some people that saw it on HBO Max would have probably paid to see it in theaters if it was only available in theaters, but I don't think that number is big enough to warrant any kind of, well, this really robbed us of millions of dollars. I think the lawsuit is probably warranted. I do think that there was some ill intent in trying to boost HBO Max subscription numbers because this was the last year. Last year was when they were going to stop doing the same day release theatrical and HBO Max releases. So they were like, all right, this is the last big hit. Instead of moving it to next year, we're going to release it this year and we're going to try to boost the subscription numbers. Probably Jason Kyler's move, if I had to guess, because he's on his way out of HBO Max. And on Twitter, I don't know if you've been seeing it, but he's been padding out like, here's all of the things that happened with HBO Max. Here's how great the service is. Basically, his resume is up on Twitter, is what he's doing to sell himself to the next company that he works for. I don't know if it's another streaming service like Netflix or Disney Plus, but it's obviously someone in some way related to media, whether it's a producer or a studio. So I could see that being Jason's thing of like, well, let me get these numbers as high as possible before I'm truly out of this thing.
Yeah, I agree that I think it was done with some ill intent, but I also don't think that the assumptions that it was a blockbuster film that would have blown away box offices is accurate either. Like, I think that they should sue, although it is still weird that it wasn't in their contract.
Yes.
Considering how late in the game that movie came out.
Fucking Gal Gadot, they just settled that. We just saw the Black Widow thing on Disney Plus. You figured by now they would have
those two big name ones that they would have been like, you know what? We're gonna look at this again and renegotiate this. Something you would have thought, but no. Like they apparently didn't. Or maybe they did, and that's gonna be the nail in the coffin. Is that they did renegotiate it and then it gets thrown out of court. I don't know. Like obviously only the lawyers would know that, but it is still weird that if they didn't negotiate it, that why? Why wouldn't you have? Like you knew that you were going to do this, and you knew that it was an issue the last time you did it, and it was an issue last time Disney did it. Because I'm sure as hell Disney went through and renegotiated all of theirs.
Oh, 100%. They better have.
If they didn't, they're going to face the same issues again, just like Warner Brothers.
And I know that David Zaslav keeps track of all this stuff, but I still like to imagine that he walks into Warner Brothers, sees the fucking shit show, and he's like, what did you fucking do? What are you guys doing? And just has to clean all of this shit up. This lawsuit he has to settle. He just got done talking to Nolan after he left Warner Brothers, all upset with the way that they handled Tenet and HBO Max. That was another thing, the theatrical release. He's trying to repair these relationships, and Warner Brothers is still like, whoops.
Yeah. Like, I just don't get it.
It's amazing.
Because I do think that there's a place for having the streaming and theaters. And I think it should just be like, oh, yeah, you can watch it in theaters, and 2-3 months later, boom, it hits streaming. And that way you get your box office numbers, and then you also get your streaming service numbers.
Those are some of the deals that AMC and them were doing. 45-day theatrical exclusive, and then you can release it on Vudu or streaming services.
Yeah, which makes more sense to me, but it's still just shocking that Warner Brothers apparently didn't renegotiate Matrix Resurrection for that.
Maybe it'll get thrown out, as you said. I still want to see what David does with this and how this kind of plays out, because it's probably the last of the headaches that they have to deal with as far as streaming same-day releases.
Potentially. We'll see what happens in the future with that one.
We have more unhappy people as a massive amount of downvotes on the latest Rockstar video. It was a GTA 5 video on YouTube. Even though YouTube hides the downvotes, you can still, if you have a video up, you can see it on your end if you're the host. And obviously people downvoted the hell out of the GTA 5 video to the point where Rockstar had to give an update on the status for the next Grand Theft Auto game. They said, quote, "With the unprecedented longevity of GTA 5, we know many of you have been asking us about a new entry in the GTA series. With every new project we embark on, our goal is always to significantly move beyond what we have previously delivered, and we are pleased to confirm that active development for the next entry in the GTA series is well underway." End quote. Of course it's fucking underway.
So GTA 6 for PS6 confirmed, and whatever the next Xbox will be.
Yes.
Like,
it was such a non-update, but I'm assuming the GTA players were like, yeah, finally, we did something.
well, I heard a rumor about 6 too, that it's supposed to be set in Chicago.
Oh, that's cool. Like a time jump, or like during the mafia days and mobsters?
No, like supposedly more modern day.
That's even scarier.
Yeah.
You just get punched in the street, no matter what street you're
GTA.
on. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It just fits.
That's real life GTA in Chicago. They've been doing that for years. I was up in Illinois last year, and I was like, oh, maybe we can go down to the city, go to downtown, check out the museum. Then my buddy Clayton's like, I mean, we can, but it's kind of really fucked up right now. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, no matter what street you are, you'll just get punched in the face for no reason. And I'm like, holy shit. He's like, it's insane. And I'm like, well, maybe I won't go there. It used to be that
you go to the museum. Fuck you.
It used to be you take a wrong turn, and much like any big city or town, you end up in the bad side of the neighborhood. And in this case with Chicago, it's just like, no, it's just the whole city. It can happen wherever.
Wherever, whenever. The bad side of the neighborhood.
Are you going to get the next GTA?
I haven't even gotten GTA 5. I haven't bought a GTA since Vice City.
It's probably good, because by the time GTA 6 releases, we'll probably get 2 more major releases for GTA 5, and then you can just get like the ultimate complete edition.
Yeah, the most definitive version.
Exactly.
Available. Like, it's insane. It has something to do with 5s though, because Skyrim with Elder Scrolls 5, GTA 5, like they just get stuck on 5. I don't think they know how to count past it.
They're like, the V looks so cool though. We just want to leave it at that.
Like, we don't want to do a V1. Like, that's just strange.
Yeah, it's like starting over.
Yeah.
Michael Pachter, we have some news from him. I love his podcast. He's got a Pack Attack is what it's called now. He used to have Pachter Factor as well. Oh no, Pack Attack was GT. Did you ever follow game trailers?
Not entirely. Like, I know who he is and stuff like that from it. And I used to go on game trailers, but mostly I would just go on there for E3 stuff like that, or E3 streams.
I used to watch him years ago, and the show today is the same, but he would answer questions from gamers. They would ask him industry questions. He's worked in investment groups and investment companies, stock market. He is a millionaire. He's been doing this shit for years. He's basically like an extremely, probably the highest paid video game consultant when it comes to finances. And since then, he now does this It's called Pactor Factor, which is the same show, but he does it via Patreon, YouTube, and Sifted. He does it for no money. Like, he just does it because it's fun and he wants to continue what he used to do at Game Trailers. And he's like, my job already pays me for what I need. So this is just like extra stuff. So I like the guy. He's a smart guy, and I've heard him and listened to him for years. He is the Wedbush's Securities Managing Director of Equity Research, in case you want to know what his official title is. It sounds expensive as fuck. No one can afford this dude, but Michael Pachter, he did have the opinion that Sony vastly overpaid for Bungie based on what they'll get out of it. I thought that was interesting. And it's like, all right, well, what do you mean? And he said, quote, Bungie went for $4 million per developer, and most deals are between $250,000 and $1 million. I've seen deals as close as high as $2 million per developer. This is crazy talk, end quote. This was in an interview with Yahoo Finance. Right now, the Sony Bungie buyout, if it goes through, it'll be for $3.6 billion, much higher than what he was saying, like with other developers that he's seen deals of. So this is, that's 300 times, a little less than 300 times, 250 times what he normally sees.
Quite a lot.
And he went on to say, quote, and just to compare and contrast, EA bought Respawn for about 3 or 4 years ago for about $700 million with 400 developers. And those guys generate $700 million a year in revenue. Bungie does about $200 million in revenue. So I think Sony vastly overpaid, end quote. It's speculated right now that Sony wanted Bungie's expertise at creating live service games. Sony plans on launching 10 live service games by March 2026. So that's what they're thinking. That's got to be the reason why they bought out Bungie for that amount and during this period, not necessarily just for their games or original IP. But based on what Michael Pachter is saying here, based on other previous deals, it does sound like it was an expensive fucking deal.
Yeah, it does. Like, he would know, obviously, since he's way more of an industry insider, unless there's something that there is undisclosed about the deal or something like that. But yeah, it does sound like they overpaid. And hopefully for their sake, they get their money's worth out of it. But only time will tell on that one.
What's your opinion on Bungie itself? I'm not as familiar with the company.
I only know past, like, after Halo is Destiny.
Right.
Destiny 1 and 2 are okay games. They're not for me. I know Bobby still plays Destiny 2 religiously.
Bobby
Shock doesn't play anymore.
Gotcha.
Bobby's the only person I know that still plays Destiny and loves it.
So they've got Destiny. I'm assuming the people that originally worked on Halo aren't with the company anymore, right? I know when I watched
I honestly don't know on that one if any of them still are. I'm sure there's probably still a few. I can't imagine the whole team is still there.
When I saw the retrospective of Halo 1 and 2, I did see that, like, by Halo 2, one of the big guys left because it was crazy stress for him. Yeah, they probably do have at least some people that got promoted up in the company that are still
I don't know if they started from, like, Halo 1, but I'm sure there's some of the people that worked on some game between Halo 1, 2, 3, and 4. Or, no, I think 3 ODST and was the last one by Bungie.
I will say that some of these people that are saying this was a reaction to Microsoft buying out, it's like, no, this shit has been in talks. They didn't go from 1 week to the next. Like, hey, Bungie, are you selling? Yeah, for like $3 billion. Fine, we'll pay it. What? Like, that's not how this shit works.
No, both the Microsoft deals and the Sony deals were well in the works, probably sometime at least last year at the latest, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah. So, like, neither one, they may have known that, like, let's say they knew Microsoft was making a move on a company.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, okay, well, we'll go with this one. But it wasn't a direct reaction to 1-to-1. That, oh, well, they bought this company, we're buying this one.
Yeah, like it's like you're going to the fucking, someone on Twitter said, it's not like you're out buying milk.
Yeah. That it's like, oh, they bought this brand, we'll buy the fancier one. We can beat them in their own game.
We also have some Pokemon news this week as GameStop, they're going to be giving away Hisuian Growlithe for Pokemon Legends Arceus from February 25th through March 13th at U.S. locations. So U.S. Brokehead Core members, make sure to head to your local GameStop. The giveaway will include a code for this Growlithe and 20 feather balls. I'm not too familiar. What are feather balls? Do you know?
No idea. I haven't started the game yet.
Okay, so they're exclusive to Arceus so far. That's where they make the debut, it sounds like. Hisuian Growlithe evolves into that version of Arcanine as well when exposed to a Firestone. Expose these nuts. I said it before you did, just in case. And so
Yeah,
I don't know how hard he is to get in the game, but I guess you get maybe a perfect IV one in this GameStop version.
The code could probably be hard to get as well. Because that's why I don't like when they just give out the codes anymore. Because I went with some of they were giving out the shiny legendaries for Sword and Shield.
Mm-hmm.
I went day 2 when they were gone. All of them given out. Because they're worth money online.
Right, people flip them on eBay.
Scalpers, sell them on eBay. Because it's free. So it's pure profit, even if you're selling it for $5-10.
Right, just your time and gas, that's really it.
Right, and if you're already visiting GameStop anyway, or there's one just down the street, it's a super easy one to go and do. So yeah, I went day 2 and it's like, nope, we're out of codes. Well, that's it. Versus back in the day where, okay, you just had to go into a mystery gift. Well, there was an infinite amount of mystery gifts there.
Yeah, that's where we used to have this old DS set up in the store, and they had a Nintendo cartridge, and it would just blast out the signal behind the counter, and people, you can park in the parking lot if you wanted to, and download the mystery gift and then take off. But they ended up changing it because people were doing that. You know, the whole idea of them making these deals with Nintendo is to get people into the store so that they can maybe impulse buy something, pick up a game, pre-order something, re-up their sub card. So I get why they went back to the codes, but they should like flood GameStops with these codes. Just
they should
drown them in
them. I mean, heck, the pre-order bonus for Pokemon was also screwed over.
What was the bonus?
There was a set of art cards. They had, I think it was like 300 pre-orders at my store, and they got 50 of the art cards pre-order bonus.
Holy shit. That's nothing.
And it's like, are you kidding me? Like that's a drop in the bucket compared to your pre-orders. And every GameStop sold out of Legends Arceus that I've been to.
Really?
Like, yeah, every GameStop I have been to recently was sold out of Legends Arceus. People were asking for it.
Because Nintendo is known to undership their games, but for Pokemon, they'd always have a shit ton.
Well, and I don't know if it's just GameStops, because again, I haven't been to a Target or a Walmart recently or since the game came out. So big box stores like that might have gotten plenty of copies, and that they just screwed over smaller store, like the medium range stores like GameStop. I did notice that, like whenever I was going to GameStops and just kind of glancing around, they had zero copies. Because I would hear people ask the employees, like, "Oh, do you have a copy?" No, sold out.
Well, there's your warning right there. If you can get there on February 25th, if you really want this code, definitely go and get it on that day. Because as Scott's been saying here, probably by March 13th, they're not going to have any more of these codes. And again, this is at US locations. This is the announcements that Nintendo, again, held off until you were on the show. And we have the latest Nintendo Direct. They did announce quite a bit of content, downloadable content, new games, a couple of remasters, some ports, but there were 3 in particular that we wanted to highlight. If you want to see or hear about the full range of games, I'm sure Scott and the rest of the Lazy Gaming guys will discuss it on stream on their YouTube channel. There's a link to their channel right here in the description of today's episode. But otherwise, the ones that we wanted to cover, and if you want to ask us about other ones, feel free on Twitter. We can discuss it on the next episode. But the one that you were pretty hyped about, and a lot of people were too, was Live Alive. Is that how you say that one?
So it's Live Alive.
Live Alive.
You will repay my loyalty in death!
And this one comprises of 7 different stories featuring different protagonists, time periods, and gameplay styles. It was previously unreleased outside of Japan. It is set to release in the US on July 22nd. So tell me about this title. What's so exciting about the fact that it's finally coming to North America?
So this is one that a lot of people in kind of the JRPG community have been very excited for ever since it was released on the Super Famicom back in the 90s, because it's it's such a unique experience, considering the fact that it does have different protagonists that are in different time periods. The gameplay style changes it up. It's completely different stories for each one. And that kind of goes back to the title of you're living alive or living a life, essentially, of each of these characters and going through their story. And it's just a really unique experience, and it's very well written. There's been fan translations and things like that. So it's nice to have an official translation, since a lot of people have been wanting this since the Super Nintendo.
And I did see that it was like an HD remaster. So they kind of took the old game from the Super Nintendo, cleaned it up. Do you know if they did any quality of life enhancements, or is it still too early to tell?
They didn't announce any, so maybe or maybe not. I mean, they did do like the whole 2.5D now and stuff like that. So I would say that there's a good chance there's probably some quality of life enhancements. I mean, granted, the average person that only knows some about it probably would never even notice, considering the game was unreleased outside of Japan. So unless you downloaded a ROM and a fan translation, you've never even played this game.
There's got to be that one hardcore fan that's like, they ruined it.
I'm sure there's at least one. Like, there's always going to be one that's like, oh, why couldn't we just get the actual SNES game? Like, what do you mean this 2.5D thing?
Just put it out on the pass, whatever they call it. Yeah, that's probably what they want. It's like, just translate the fucking thing.
Which is what the pass thing got 2 games that people were bitching about. So, because they got Earthbound.
Right. Yeah. There it is.
Yep.
I mean,
Earthbound and Earthbound 0. There you go.
But it's not Mother 3, Scott.
I know.
So they can sell their 20,000 copies of it.
I still stand by the fact that Earthbound on the Wii U and 3DS probably didn't sell well, and that's why we don't get Mother 3. Because I think that was them testing the waters. Because it's like, hey, here's Earthbound for $10. Are you going to buy it? And then when a bunch of people, like probably not enough people bought it, and they were like, well, why should we go through all the trouble of localizing this entire game and everything else and all this time and effort when this would be we didn't even make enough money off of a game we literally just had to port.
Right.
You know?
Well, I would have bought it if it were Mother 3.
See, and that's the whole argument. And it's like, well, they put these things out as tests.
Yes.
And I think that's why they're putting out Force Unleashed is as a test.
Could be.
To be like, hey, would people buy Force Unleashed 1 and 2 again nowadays? If so, we might do a 3 because, wow, there's actually demand for this. If not, nope, there's no demand, clearly.
Here was kind of an odd move for Mario Kart, and you were bringing this up on Discord. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, it is getting a booster course pass, kind of like Smash Brothers Ultimate did, so you got a season pass type of deal. A total of 48 remastered courses from across the Mario Kart series will be coming to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe as paid DLC. Eight courses will be released at a time over 6 waves by the end of next year. So you were saying instead of them doing a Mario Kart 9, they ended up doing kind of like what people say they should do with Madden, where just release DLC content and whatever. So it was kind of an odd move because it is a big chunk of content. You have all new tracks. Like, sure, they're just remastered, but that's not easy to do either. You could have easily packaged this up as a game. So I thought it was fascinating too that they, instead of doing a completely new Mario Kart 9, which maybe they're waiting until the next system to actually do it, but they ended up doing more DLC for Mario Kart 8.
Yeah, because with 48 tracks, even if they are just remasters of courses, that's 48 tracks is a whole game. Like that, you could have easily just slapped in probably about 4 or 5 extra characters and called it Mario Kart 9. And I think that would have been, like, people would have been like, yeah, okay, that's Mario Kart 9.
One of the rumors that we talked about last week were that there were going to be other racers outside the Mario series, kind of like they put in Zelda in the last one, I want to say. They put in some Animal Crossing characters as well. The leak said that there was going to be F-Zero in there, Balloon Fight, a couple of other different characters. The Rabbids from Ubisoft were going to be in there. Would you be surprised at all if with each wave, kind of like Smash, they released an extra racer to add to the series?
I would be shocked if they did. I honestly see it as just the courses, especially after what they were talking about. Like, I see it as just that they're going to release the courses and nothing else. Especially considering as well, it's free with the expansion pass plus.
Which is that just the online
that's
Nintendo
the-
thing, or?
Yeah, it's the deluxe version. So
Okay.
when you get the N64, the Sega Genesis stuff, you're also getting DLC for Mario Kart 8.
Gotcha.
So considering they threw it in free with that, I'm betting it's just the remastered courses.
Okay.
Because it would be a lot more work to throw in actual characters. And last time they threw in actual characters, that was just a season pass. Like, you bought it, you paid money for it. Just like Smash Brothers. They're not going to throw in characters in Smash Brothers, I don't think, and then make it free with the expansion pass.
Yeah.
Because it's just too much time and effort versus a course. Yeah, okay. We're just taking this course, and it's still a lot of time and effort, but not the same level. At least I wouldn't think so. I also don't know how much harder or how much easier a Mario Kart character throwing it in is, considering they're mostly just reskins. I'm sure of like a base model.
Do you feel like we're going to have to wait till the next generation before we get 9 at this point?
I think that this pretty much confirms that we'll be waiting till the next generation. If this wasn't announced, then I would think a Mario Kart 9 would be possible on the Switch. This going all the way through 2023 has pretty much sealed the fact, because the Switch I don't think is going to go much farther than 2024.
Well, when the next Nintendo console comes out, they can release Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Complete Edition, and then we can wait till even longer.
That's what they're going to do, and then have it from the Wii U onwards.
This is the announcement that I was most excited for. I know I saw people on Instagram like posting before the announcement of like just to get it out there in the universe, we need another Mario Strikers, and I'm like, oh, that's funny. The one other person that wants a Mario Strikers game. Apparently not, as they have announced Mario Strikers Battle League. And people in our Discord, even Bobby, you, myself, I was like, I thought I was going to be the only fucking guy that remembers those games. You guys were hyped for it.
I never got a chance to really play the other Strikers, but I always wanted to. Like, it was one of those games that, for whatever reason, I never bought as a kid, and I never knew a friend that owned it. But I'd watch like gameplay of it on G4 and stuff like that, and it always looked fun. And I liked the more arcadey soccer. That's why I think both me and you tried that Captain Tsubasa game, which was trash.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
So I'm hoping that this will be what Captain Tsubasa couldn't be.
What made me first play the original Super Strikers, because it came out on GameCube, I believe, and then they did a sequel on the Wii. But before that, also on the GameCube was Sega Soccer Slam, and originally that was on Dreamcast, but they brought it over to GameCube as well. And I remember getting Sega Soccer Slam from Sam's Club. It was like in the bargain section. I think it was like $20 or something. And I was like, oh, I've seen, I think it was a G4 review or one of the magazines that I was subscribing to at the time were talking about how great Sega Soccer Slam was and how good a port this was. And I'm like, all right. So got it at Sam's Club, and my brother and I loved it. Like, it's so much fun. It's the original Soccer Slam, basically. You play as different countries, and the stereotypes are insane, man. Like, every country has it's like, you name it, man. The stereotype is there for every single country. And back then, no one gave a shit. I didn't care when I was playing as, like, when I was fighting or playing as the Latino countries or anything like that. It was like, cool. Like, everyone is over exaggerated in this, including the US. That game being as fun as it was, and they're like, from the makers of Sega Soccer Slam is Super Mario Strikers. I'm like, I fucking love Sega Soccer Slam. So that's why I ended up picking up the next two games that all featured Mario characters. The Wii one featured online play. You can go online and play against people throughout the world. So my brother and I, we chose Peter Piranha as the main guy because his special would cover the field in his vomit, basically. And it would be like a tar thing that would slow everyone down. So we could pull off our specials in that way. We would always choose the Hammer Brothers because they had the best evade dodge thing. And like I was saying on Discord, when we were playing religiously, we got up to rank 70 on worldwide. So we were like, man, and that was the highest we ever got. Because if you stopped playing for one day, you would immediately go down in the rankings again. But it was so much fun. We were pretty decent at it. The internet connection was whatever because it was the Wii. So sometimes you got good days, sometimes you got bad days. But now with this one, I sent my brother a screenshot and I'm like, hey, Roger, it's time again. We got to do this.
Yeah, and it's really cool that you can make like little leagues or whatever, like groups where you can all play together.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
how's
and stuff
that
online.
work? Like Bobby was saying, we should all make a league. Can we do a league from
So-
each of our homes?
Yeah, so from what I can tell from the trailer, because this is all we have to really go on, and you can kind of create a league with up to 20 people, and then it, for the most part, averages your play between all of you. Like you're all a group. So you're all competing on your own and things like that, and then you're moving up as a group in the rankings.
Oh, kind of
based
like
on how
a
well
fantasy
you're-
league.
Yeah, like how well you're doing. And then there's also just 8-player multiplayer where you can just play as a group of 8 against other groups of 8, from what I could tell. And then
Yeah.
there's also 8-player multiplayer where each of you have 4 and then like go against each other on the same Switch.
The number of players is much higher from what I remember than the original Soccer Slam or Strikers. Because there'd be one main character like a Mario or a Peter Piranha, and then there'd be like the little characters like Boo or the Hammer Brothers, and there'd be 4 of those, I believe, plus the goalie. So it sounds like you're saying you control 8 or you control 4?
I think you control 4.
Okay, so it's about the same as the other Super Strikers. It's just fun, man. I don't know if it's the same developers as Sega Soccer Slam. I'd have to look that up. But the video that I was watching, it looked basically like the same mechanics, the same engine as the older Super Strikers. I wouldn't be shocked if they just took that over, brought it over to the Switch, same engine, because it looks the same.
Yeah.
Like even the graphics, it's like, yeah, they're a little bit more polished, but they're not insane, they're not mind-blowing.
No, I love the little like, stylized things when they're doing their ultimate attacks.
Yeah.
Reminds me of like Street Fighter 4 when you had those ultimate attacks. Things like that where it goes like all like ink and paint type thing. Looks really cool. I'm very excited to get my hands on Mario Strikers.
This one will launch on the Nintendo Switch on June 10th. And yeah, I will have to pre-order my copy at Target or something because it's one that I absolutely want to play with my brother. I want to play with you guys and really explore how we can form a league or play and get good. Like Bobby was saying, we should all form a league. It's like, all right, but I'm going to take this shit seriously. Like we need to get really good at this.
Yeah.
Because people are awesome online. We got to come up with our little strategies. Hammer Brothers better be fucking in there again because that shit was my fucking guy. We'll see what happens. Those were the 3 highlights, though, for Nintendo Direct. Before we move on to the last bit of news, was there anything else from the Direct that you wanted to cover?
I'll quickly mention a few others that I'm excited for, like the Chrono Cross remaster. That one's kind of cool. That is technically a sequel to Chrono Trigger, if anyone remembers that game from the SNES era or the DS remake.
Same art. That's Akira Toriyama, right?
Yeah, and then it's also same universe, technically. So it is a successor and a sequel, but the game also has I think it's 101 party members that you can get in the game.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and I think it's 20 different endings or something like that. It's ridiculous. Some other ones include, of course, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I'm not super excited for it, but that is a big enough game that I should probably mention it. SD Gundam Battle Alliance looks super fun to me.
What kind of game is that?
So it looks like, because they showed a quick trailer for it, but it reminds me of like the Dynasty Warriors Gundams games and stuff like that, just with the kind of chibi Gundams. So I'm very excited to try that out and see what it's like. And then, of course, the Advance Wars game, although we already knew about the Advance Wars remakes.
Right.
But we saw a little bit more of that and got an official release date. And then I think the final one I'll mention is the Klonoa collection, because Klonoa is a really fun game. I've only ever played the GBA games, the 2 on there, because the PS1 games were really expensive. But I'm excited to finally play those. They're very fun little puzzle platformer type games, and like definitely excited.
Well, there you go. We give our thank you to Nintendo for moving the Direct up so that you guys can enjoy our coverage of it this week. And I'm sure they will keep an eye out, but we will also be keeping an eye on Bobby or whoever the mole might be that's in our Discord host that's telling Nintendo who is hosting when and who's going to be the co-host that week. So next week with Bobby being on, probably something Pokemon related is going to break, so I wouldn't be shocked, but we'll find out next week. The last bit of news is in a recent conversation with VG247, longtime Resident Evil director Shinji Mikami was asked about Capcom possibly remaking Resident Evil 4, and he said, quote, "It would be great if Capcom could do a great job and make the story better and put out a good product," end quote. He went on to clarify that when the original Resident Evil 4 was made, he only had 3 weeks to write it, which meant that he couldn't dictate or dedicate as much time as he wanted to the story. And I will say, look, Resident Evil 4 is my favorite game of all time. It's still my favorite game. I love it. I played the GameCube version, the Wii version that came out, 100%ed it, got all the different guns and everything. I fucking loved Resident Evil 4. But the story, like, it's not gonna win any awards. It's not great writing. It's cheesy. It's kind of like a crummy action movie a little bit. It's more in the lines of Resident Evil 1 even, I would say. Like, I know the story and the lines progressed and they got better by the time they got to 3. But it was kind of cheesy. And I always thought that that was the intention. But it sounds like he was just like, well, whatever, we got to get this done. and that kind of surprised me.
I always thought that was the intention for all of Resident Evil as a series. Because to me, every Resident Evil just felt like a B movie, like a B horror movie. And I thought that was, like, that's always been the charm to me of Resident Evil, is that you're supposed to take it seriously. And in some parts, it is like an actual creepy, scary game. And then other parts, it's just so ridiculously over the top that you can't help but laugh. You know, like with Resident Evil 4, I mean, when they introduced Salazar, like the little, like, midget Napoleon guy, and you're just like, what the fuck is this? This is supposed to be the villain for, like, the middle half of the game.
I'm still sad they killed off Luis in it. Like, he was just a cool character, and then he goes out maybe a fourth of the game in, and I'm like, oh, I thought he was going to be a big deal in this. Guess not.
Yeah, so I could see how they would probably expand a lot of the writing. You know, give Luis a little bit more screen time in general before he dies, so that you care a little bit more about him.
Right.
Because, like, rewatching someone play through now for all the trophies, it's kind of like, yeah, he wasn't really in much. He would just show up, maybe give a little exposition, and then leave.
Yeah, and I think there was the one level he helped you shoot some of the zombies that you needed to keep out of the building or something.
Yeah, there's that part, and that's probably the most he does in the entire, like, active gameplay. A lot of times it's just he shows up for a cutscene and then leaves.
Yeah, and considering how much time Leon spent with him, I'm like, Leon really, he kind of freaks out over the guy dying. He's like, Louis! And I'm like, well, yeah, I don't really know him.
Like, you've known him for maybe all of an hour out of the whole game.
That's true.
I mean, it was just kind of weird. So I would like to see, like, Luis get more screen time. I would like to see a little bit more flow as to why they just suddenly end up in a castle. You know, like, it just kind of was like, yeah, you're going from a village and a church to, oh yeah, here's the castle. Like, yeah, there's got to be a better bridging to that.
I'm a little bit nervous about them remaking Resident Evil 4. Like, they recently did the Oculus version, which I hear is good, but I saw some gameplay on it, and I'm like, I know I wouldn't like it because I'm not a big Oculus or whatever you want to call that, VR. I'm not that kind of player. I don't like those kinds of games. So Resident Evil 4 is, to me, it's so fucking good. You know, years ago I would call it a perfect game, and I understand now that there's some problems with it. You could probably enhance some of the gameplay, some of the levels could probably use some tweaking and some work. But to me, it's still my favorite title of all time. So I do have a little bit of unease into them doing that, especially with what we got Resident Evil 6 and how they ended up still trying to do more of that over the shoulder sort of, and some action, more action than they did in 5 even. And they ended up kind of botching it to the point where now it's its own different thing, which is great. People are loving Resident Evil Village and Resident Evil 7. So
yeah,
good on them.
Well, if they do it like because we got Resident Evil 2 remake and Resident Evil 3 remake, and I think they did very, very good. with those two and made them much better than their originals, and probably the definitive way to play those two games. And I think if they do something like that same team does Resident Evil 4, I'd be very comfortable with it. Because I think that they keep enough to know where, like, okay, this is what made it fun, was these types of things. And then we just need to get rid of some of the stuff that wasn't really that entertaining or slowed down some flow and things like that, and then kind of enhanced things that were good. And then also with the plot, they kept all of the major story beats, just added things in. Like you might have a new boss fight that helps bridge a gap in storytelling before, things of that nature. Or enhance a boss fight that was just super easy and boring.
True, like one of the Los Gigantes, like some of those. Does Resident Evil 4 sit in your top 10 of any video games, or did it at any point?
They did back in the day. Like, back on the GameCube era especially, like, that was definitely one of my favorites. I would say my second favorite Resident Evil.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm a weird person. I like 5.
5 was good, too.
Like, I really loved just how over the top 5 was with bringing Wesker back and things like that, and fighting in a volcano as the final boss, and punching the boulder. Like, it was just so over the top and stupid. But I also liked when you could play with a friend and have the co-op aspect.
Yeah, that's something I never did. So I would always take Sheva's ammo and everything. Like, I'm like, you're going to waste this. So.
It's like, you can have a basic herb and that's it. And hold my ammo, but no gun.
Yeah, I think at one point you can... Obviously, you unlock the unlimited ammo stuff, and I think you could give it to her, too. So I think I eventually gave her one of those, and I was like,
once you get, like, an unlimited ammo SMG or something for her, she's actually a great teammate.
Yeah.
But she will plow through your ammo if you don't have an unlimited ammo gun on her.
Absolutely.
And I've still never played 6. Like, that is the only Resident Evil game I have never even touched.
I heard it was awful. And anyone that doesn't remember 5 had that controversy. Remember when that first trailer came out where it's just Chris mowing down a bunch of black people in Africa?
Yeah.
And where they had to change it. And you get to the game and it's like, this is a very diverse crowd in Africa now.
But yeah.
They had to update that. That was a big deal back then. And some of the younger brokettes you didn't live through that or might not remember, but you might be able to find the original trailer on YouTube to Resident Evil 5. Like the announcement trailer is what it was called, or the teaser trailer, and you can see what the original gameplay in a little bit and some of the changes that they made.
It is funny though. No one complained about Resident Evil 4 just shooting down a bunch of Spaniards.
No, they didn't. And I said that back then too.
It's like, Resident Evil 4, because it's like, well, you're in a Spanish village. Of course, all the people are going to be Spaniards. Like,
yeah.
And that one's also like, yeah, you're in a village in Africa.
Exactly.
Like, that's going to be the people that live there. And Resident Evil 5 also did the whole parasite thing like Resident Evil 4.
That's true. Yeah.
It was just a different parasite.
I may pick up Resident Evil 4 if that remake comes out. It's been a while since I've played any Resident Evil. I think 5 was the last one I played. I might have rented Resident Evil 6 when I still worked at GameStop, and that's when I was like, yeah, this one isn't for me. But it's cool. I'm glad that another generation will hopefully get to enjoy a proper version of Resident Evil 4, and hopefully it's as good as what I remember, and they hopefully don't botch it as it looks like they haven't done with Resident Evil 2 and 3. So it seems like it is in good hands, even though it is changing drastically as far as the gameplay. I'm assuming they're going to do the over-the-shoulder thing, which was very different than Resident Evil 2 and 3 at the time. So it might be a little bit of a leap for them.
Yeah, I think it'll definitely be different, but I feel like it's in good enough hands that hopefully we'll get with Resident Evil 4, and then 5 remake would be great, and then a 6 remake to kind of fix the issues with that one.
And then 7 and then 8.
Keep going. You just start over again. Because we still haven't gotten an official Resident Evil 1 remake either, so...
Yep. Since the GameCube era, right?
Yeah, that was the only one.
But there you go. That is our round out for a lot of video game news this week. For this week's episode, let's go ahead and top things off with the Brokehead Block, which is what Scott and I have been doing in the week. So Scott, since you were last on, what have you been up to? Playing, watching, reading? How's work been?
So for the most part, what I've been watching, you can actually hear about on the Ronin Council podcast that I'm a part of.
Very nice.
because I've been just plowing through a bunch of anime from the season. Definitely check out the Running Council if you want to hear about more in depth about what I've been watching.
A new
But
episode
a quick
coming out?
summary is things. We are recording a new one this week for the mid-season of our mid-season report. So that'll definitely be coming out pretty soon, shortly after, if it isn't already out by the time this one goes live. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I'm watching like Demon Slayer, great series. Highly enjoying season 2. Only one episode left to that.
Why are people saying there's a pacing issue with season 2?
I have no idea. I don't notice a pacing issue. The arc in the manga is also very short, so it just kind of works the same way as the manga to me. Because the
Gotcha.
entire arc in the manga is, I think, 8 chapters. So the fact that they were able to squeeze it out into like 12 episodes is pretty surprising.
Yeah.
I'm also enjoying an anime called Q, which is about voice actresses kind of going into the industry. And Slow Loop, very fun series about a girl getting used to her new family after her father passes away.
Oh, wow.
And,
That one's much heavier.
Yeah, like she's getting used to having a new sister and a new father and kind of the mentality that comes with that through her hobby of fishing, fly fishing, which she used to do with her father, and he taught her how and stuff like that. She
Well-
kind of uses that as like a mechanism.
Well, where's the anime twist? Does she turn into a fish or something? Like
No,
every
that
night?
is it. Like it is literally just a drama series, but really good. It's got a lot of heart to it. If you want the one with an anime twist, that is Tribe 9. That is the world of extreme baseball,
I like it.
in which there's Tokyo, well, like Japan in general has been divided up into like 9 tribes, and they play baseball against each other, and they use the whole city as a baseball field. So they pull out like these extreme bats and stuff like that look like lightsabers, and like you can hit the pitcher, and that's just counted as an instant win if you can knock the pitcher out.
That's amazing.
Like it's just glorious. Like it's fantastic. It's over the top. It's ridiculous. It's stupid, but it's so much fun.
And that's on Funimation?
That is on Funimation.
I know you don't watch dub, but do you know if it's dubbed?
It is not currently dubbed. A lot of the Funimation stuff doesn't get dubbed until well after the series is out.
Yeah, that just happened with Netflix's Comey Can't Communicate, Netflix original, where they
Yeah.
released it non-dubbed first for months. It was up there for months, and then just recently, this week, they released a dub for it. So they were like, I guess that's a new thing that I don't know if Netflix and Funimation both do it, but where they were saying that moving forward, they want to release the Japanese version as soon as they get it. And then later on, when they work on the dub, they'll then just update the file or the series instead of waiting until they have the dub to release it.
Right. And that's the whole thing. That way they can have it as simulcast, because Japan's not going to give them the raw files like to work with before the episode's actually out, because then it could leak.
Yeah, that's true.
Like they don't want it leaking. So because of that, it airs in Japan, and then I think an hour later it airs in the US subbed.
Perfect.
So it's within a short amount of time, but they can't do a whole dub in an hour.
Yeah.
Whereas they can easily subtitle the whole thing in an hour. I say easily, but I'm sure they have a whole team of people working on that to subtitle it in an hour.
Probably the same people that do the closed caption on live TV. I don't know if you ever saw that, where
Probably.
you would see them like type it out. Did you ever see where they would make a mistake and they delete it, like the word would
Yeah.
disappear? And then I used
Yeah,
to
like it
love
would
that
come up
shit.
as like a typo or something, and then like vanish, and then like the proper thing would come up.
So same team. Get them on.
But yeah, so that's some of what I'm watching. Reading, I'm trying to catch up in the Sonic comics. I'm still a little bit behind, about 4 or 5 issues.
Yeah, they're leading up to issue 50. All the comics are making a big deal out of it. The crossovers and whatnot.
So I'm excited for that. I did read the first issue of Imposter Syndrome. That was good. I kind of enjoy where they're going with that one, and I'll see how it continues.
Yeah, that's the Ian Flynn book with the 2 original characters.
Yes. Got their names off the top of my head since I've only seen them for one comic, but
Yeah, the water one I think has like a Japanese name, like Kisomo or something, because it's based on the
Yes.
Nine-Tailed Fox. And then it's like Volt or something for the main character. Yeah, they're cool. They're bad guys but they're probably going to end up churning on what's his name and be their own
Dr.
characters.
Starliner, because he's basically just trying to force them to do things.
Right.
And that was kind of one of the issues in issue 1 that gets brought up.
And I hope they take off his characters, because Tangle and Whisper seem to be doing pretty well on their own, and eventually these guys. It's always nice when original characters get made and then they end up being a part of the Sonic universe.
Yeah, I love Tangle and Whisper still. Like, they're 2 of my favorite Sonic the Hedgehog characters.
There you go.
Like, by far. So I'm very happy with them. Let's see. I can't think of anything else I've been reading off the top of my head, because I'm behind in Robin. Still enjoying it, but I am behind by about 2 or 3 issues. And same with Batman Catwoman. I haven't started yet from Tom King.
Well,
Just because I was kind of waiting until it finished and then plowing through it all.
It has a weird release. Also, how long's it been since you've watched Mask of the Phantasm?
Probably about 6 months.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, I'd like, whenever you do read them all, watch Mask of the Phantasm beforehand, but 6 months, you know basically what happens, so you'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah, because I knew the characters from Mask of the Phantasm show up.
Yeah, Andrew Belmont.
Because, they're on the front cover.
Right.
Or the Phantasm is on the front cover, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I think that was one of the reasons I started, that I watched the movie, was because, like, I saw that, and then I had heard you talk about Mask of the Phantasm. I'm like, well, let me check this out then. Like, since it's just on HBO Max.
Pretty fucking good, right?
It was good. Not one of my favorites, but I thought it was perfectly fine and good.
It is my favorite Batman movie, but Bruce Timm always talks about how Warner Brothers told him, all right, this is going to be a direct to VHS movie, and it'll basically be the end of the animated series. And he's like, all right. And then, like, when they got to near the end of production, Warner Brothers is like, we're going to release this in theater, so make sure to do it in the 16:9 format. And he's like, no, what the fuck? Yeah. He's like, it wasn't made for that. And so they had to convert it later on, like at the end, to 16:9. So he always talks about that movie. He's like, I would have done it way different if I had known from the beginning that it was going to be in theaters.
Right. Yeah, they kind of shafted him on that one.
Yeah, but I'm always like, Bruce, you made a near perfect Batman movie. Give yourself a break.
Yeah. It's like, it's okay. But yeah, that's been pretty much it. I have been playing a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. I don't play Yu-Gi-Oh! Physically because people are trash. But
you'd have your card stolen by now.
Yeah, but online, I do play kind of. Like, I think I've played 1 ranked match, because that's all there is ranked match to play online.
Is that on PC?
I mostly just play the solo mode. It's on everything. Like,
okay.
Switch, Xbox, PS, PlayStation 4, 5, PC, mobile, everything.
Do they update the sets as new ones come out?
They do. They update the rule sets.
Good.
They haven't put it in yet, but they announced that you can play either by the Japanese rule sets, the English rule sets, custom rule sets. You'll be able to create your own tournaments over time, because it is a free-to-play game.
Oh, nice.
And then there's like a solo mode where it looks at the archetypes of some of the monsters and stuff, and it's like, it's the story of them and then how to use them and things like that. I really would love to see a Pokemon TCG game like Master Duel, where it kind of doesn't require you to go out and buy packs, because this one's very much, you can just spend in-game currency to buy it, and then if you want to make a certain deck, like let's say you need 1 card, right, like a Dark Magician, you can just craft it in game.
Oh, okay.
Like, I need this card. I can delete other ultra rare cards to gain points to use to spend on this ultra rare card that I need.
Gotcha.
And just make that 1 card. So it's not as random. You can get rid of cards you don't need to make ones you do.
Yeah, on Pokemon TCG online, there's ways to get the cards you need, but it doesn't sound as easy as what Yu-Gi-Oh! Sounds like.
Yeah. So I would love to see them do that. Something like this.
There's like a marketplace you can put up hey, I'm looking for this and I'm willing to trade these. And if you get a nice enough player who's like, sure, here you go, like, you might get it. Right. But otherwise, you're kind of at the whim of like, hopefully I can get someone to trade me this thing. And it's a fine enough game though, but it's kind of cool how they're doing it in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, and that's why I would love to see a Pokemon one like this, because I love playing Pokemon, the Pokemon TCG. But I also don't want to play with, like, buy packs and stuff like that in order to then random get stuff and all that, versus this is all, well, yeah, just keep logging in daily and then use the in-game currency to then buy packs. And if I need certain cards, yeah, just dismantle these cards, make this card, boom, there we go. My deck is finished.
That's cool. It sounds like they basically made one of the best Yu-Gi-Oh games recently.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh fans are still angry at it, so like that will always happen. They're like Star Wars fans or any other major fandom. Like they'll never be happy.
Well, extra fuck the Yu-Gi-Oh fans because yeah, like we've said and Bobby said it too. You know, the Yu-Gi-Oh fan base is not known for being great. There is
a reason. Like I said, I only play the games. I enjoy a lot of the games, but I would never play in person anywhere with a lot of these people ever. My God. Like, I've heard the horror stories. I've seen some of it back in the day. Like,
well, cool, man. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Before we started recording, I was letting you know that I just got done with a 10-hour shift before we started recording. And the whole time I did not use the restroom because I'm an adult. And the only reason I'm bringing that up is that crummy looking Pattinson movie, The Batman, recently revealed its runtime of over 3 hours. And I heard podcasters and people online like, I just got to make sure I don't drink anything before I go into the theater. It's like, I just got done with a fucking 10-hour shift. I ate and drank things while I was working. Like, I got home and comfortably went and used the restroom. I wasn't like dancing. I went, oh shit. It's like, no, it's fine. Like, I'm an adult.
Yeah. I worked an 8-hour on like 2 days this week. I didn't pee until I got home either time.
It just amazes me that people are like, they have to plan out like for 3 hours. I can't. It's like, are you kidding me? You can't hold it for 3 hours? Just like the MCU fan base was saying with Endgame, like,
yeah,
elaborate plans and adult diapers.
Drink normally. Like, yeah, if you're going to chug a big gulp beforehand, you might have to pee, but why are you chugging the big gulp? Just drink a normal drink at a normal pace. Like, if you just act normal, you will be fine. Like,
yeah.
Because again, you are an adult.
I had to put that in there because I realized that I'm like, I haven't gone all day. I could have watched the Endlame twice or the Pattinson movie 3 times without going to the bathroom.
Been fine.
I did go to the movies last week. I did go and see Moonfall, which is the same director as Independence Day. Did you see any trailers for it?
Nope.
Premise is the moon is falling to the down to Earth and they have to stop it. And I was like, director of Independence Day, and that's the plot? Fuck yeah, I'm in. So I went in theaters, I watched it. It stars Patrick Wilson, who was Aquaman's brother in the movie. He's also in the Conjuring films. So it stars him, Halle Berry's in it. She co-stars as well. It's basically what I wanted out of it, a disaster movie where it's like, oh shit, the moon's falling to the earth, and of course that's fucking up gravity, that's fucking up the tides, it's flooding cities, and they got to stop it. But oh wait, there's something more. Why is it falling? It's a mega structure. It was always, the moon is hollow, and there's a spaceship in the center of it. It's like, oh man, this is great. So I went to theaters to watch it. I'm happy I saw it. I knew what I was going to get out of it.
It sounds cheesy and fun.
Exactly. And that's basically been my week. I did download Planet Coaster because you guys were talking about it on Discord, and last on Lazy Gaming Guys, you had mentioned it on one of your streams, and it also came out on PSN, I believe. You can download the console version, PlayStation Plus. So when I was weighing out the options, and I know you know all this because of Discord, but for the Brocat Core, I ended up, the year of PlayStation Plus is like $60 or whatever, and I'm like, well, I could get that for a year and play Planet Coaster Console Edition. I went on Steam and it was on sale for $8. I'm like, fuck, $8? And you can get the Ghostbusters pass for $3 more. That was on sale too. And I was like, all right, 8, 9, 10, 11, $12. I can afford that right now. So I downloaded it on my Mac, and it's awesome, man. It's a fun game. Like you were saying, it's a lot of fun. I like the sandbox mode where you have unlimited money and you can just make whatever you want to do. You don't have to worry about like waiting around until you get more money to build the thing. And it's a blast. And Leo plays with me. He likes to like click on like, all right, I want to put a rock here. Great. Go ahead, kid. Put a tree there. And what should we do next? We should do a Christmas village. I'm like, okay, well, let me download. I don't know if you know about that, but in the Steam Workshop, whatever other people create, they can put it up for free and you just download it. Like you subscribe to it.
So on the console version, there's also you can access all of that as well,
Awesome. That's good.
which is really cool.
So I went and subscribed to a bunch of stuff and downloaded like a bunch of Christmassy holiday things. And it's like, all right, Leo. And then we made a little Christmassy section. And it's a lot of fun. I really like Planet Coaster. I'm glad it came out on Mac. Planet Zoo hasn't released yet on Mac. It is on Microsoft computers and Microsoft systems. So you can play Planet Zoo. I want to play Planet Zoo, but I have to wait until it actually releases on something that I can play it on. But in the meantime, fucking Planet Coaster. I want to get all the DLC. I went back in. I'm like, all right, what's the next $4 DLC I can get? None of it was on sale anymore. They were all back up to $30. And I'm like,
They
son
go
of
on
a
sale
bitch.
pretty frequently though, because like or at least I know on PSN they've been on sale at least 4 or 5 times in the last year.
Good.
So don't worry too much. Like,
It will go on sale soon, is what you're saying.
yeah, give it a few months at most, and I'm sure you'll see it back on there. Like, just have notifications turned on or something like that.
Yeah, I'll have to set some of that up because I want to get some of the stuff that people make. You need the DLC to make, because some of the pieces you can only get. So there's some of that, and there's the base game itself. Like, it has a decent amount of rides, but not enough to where I'm like, especially with the room you get in sandbox mode, where I'm like, I could use a lot more rides than this to really fill this out. So eventually I want to get some of the DLC and get some of the classic rides, the haunted rides, all of that stuff, and really boost it out.
Yeah, it's a nice evolution of Roller Coaster Tycoon.
I agree. But my fucking staff keep quitting because they're underworked. Like, some of the shops are not busy enough. And I'm like, who quits because they're underworked?
My job is too easy. Fuck you. I'm leaving.
Yeah. They're like, it's a snooze fest. And it's like, am I paying you? Shut up and work.
Yeah.
Or no, don't work. Shut up and stand there. Whatever.
Like, sure, it's kind of boring to work one of those shifts, but it's free money. Like,
Easy money.
I'm not leaving.
So it's fun, man. I've been liking that. But that's basically been my week. Planet Coaster, Moonfall, doing the podcast, a little bit of work here and there. Nothing too crazy. My sister's birthday's coming up, so we're going to be celebrating that. And
Nice.
yeah, nothing too terrible. Kelly and Leo's cough is mostly gone. It's all like, that's been like a month that they had been recovering from this thing, but they're just, I don't know what you want to call it, but like Kelly says that her lungs are clearing out. Like, she's coughing up stuff. So that's
It's a good thing.
they're on the upswing. And I'm like, I never got any of that. Like, normally it's like a week later I get sick, but I'm like, it's been a month. Like, they're obviously not contagious anymore. So
No, not after that long.
I'm like, I guess I'm good. Pretty lucky, I guess. Pretty lucky that nothing negative, nothing too heavy. And we got the Broscars coming up for this year. We've got a couple of movies nominated on there. So Brokehead Core, we are kind of whittling the list down and making something solid. Jared and I were going a little back and forth on it. But if there's anything that you saw last year or early this year that qualifies for the Oscars, or in this case, the Broscars, let us know on Twitter, let us know on Discord, and we will consider adding it onto the list, because it's not a 100% set list. Some of us are still watching some of the movies that were nominated to see if they're worthy of being up there with movies like King Richard or Zack Snyder's Justice League or Dune. And if those movies are better than any of those, then we'll replace them. So let us know, as always, so that we can help shape out the Broscars, because it is a little bit different this year. We've got a variety of hosts, and I want to get all of their input. And I think what I'll end up doing is, for anyone that cares to vote in the Broscars, as far as the hosts, that we'll have like all right, rate this one, this one, this one, and this one, and then take an average. Highest rating ends up being the winner of that particular category. Still working it out, but as far as you on the other side, Brokehead Core member, whatever you watched, if there's something you feel really strongly about, if you're like, I love King Richard, that was my favorite movie of last year, let us know, and all of that will be taken into consideration. But Scott, I do want to thank you again for making some time before you end up streaming. I know you do your streams once a week, so I do appreciate you taking some time beforehand to be on and making it possible for the Brokehead Core to enjoy your show this week. So thank you, Scott.
No problem. It was fun like normal. I'm also looking forward to stream. So
yeah, let them know where they can find you.
So you can find me on @LazyGamingGuys on Twitter. That's where we're also going to have the links to our YouTube account for Lazy Gaming Guys, where we stream every Wednesday night at between 10 and 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And then you can also check me out on the Ronin Council podcast, which you can also find on Twitter, and you can find all the links on there for everything. Those are going to be the two main places that you will find me. You can also find me on the Discord, the Lazy Gaming Guys Discord. Link is on our Twitter, along with, of course, the reasons I broke Discord as well.
Perfect. And there will be links to this as well in the description of today's episode on where you can find Scott, Lazy Gaming Guys, and the Ronin console. And as well, the Discord lounge is also in the description of today's episode, where you do also find other members of Lazy Gaming Guys like Scott and Julian. So thank you all so much for tuning in this week. I've been Daniel, joined by Scott, and Brocat Core. All will be well. So Scott, give me another normal anime premise that you're watching, so I can try to find the anime twist in it, like earlier we did with the fish. So what's one that's like normal? Komi can't communicate. That seems pretty standard, right?
I mean, that one's kind of a weird one already.
All right, well, give me a more level-headed one.
There's one about futsal that we're watching this season. Futsal. It's like soccer, but it's indoor soccer.
Oh, okay.
I never knew it existed before watching that, but apparently it is popular in like South America.
And they just paint the goal on the wall, right?
No, they have like a little tiny goal.
Oh, all right.
But yeah, it's so strange to just because I'm like, it's just soccer. But no, okay, we play indoors occasionally, but not all the time. Like a lot of times they just play on a soccer field.
But the main character gets transformed into the ball.
No, it's actually very yaoi apparently. Like,
oh, and they're all gay.
It, but my God, like it is very gay from episode 1.
So not so much transforming into a ball, but more fondling balls than anything.
Could be. There's definitely going to be a lot of ball handling going on in that series.
Well, there's the anime twist right there.